As the carousel winds down and all these coaching vacancies are filled, now we're having trouble with the coaches and where they landed. One in particular is on the Bayou. Is there trouble in Bayou Paradise for Brian Kelly in LSU? Let's talk about it. Boys and girls in sporting land, once again, I'm JPC. I am the outlaw of college football, and this is, and without a shadow of a doubt, will always be the home of the Common Joe and Common Sally in the know, and even more so than all those media talking heads. Sound like a preacher, huh? Time to preach the college football gospel once again unto my brothers and sisters of college football paradise. And as you know, there's been a lot of coaching changes this year. And it's starting to wind down a little bit. You still got a few more spots to fill. And you may have some more spots to fill after they fill those spots and take other people's head coaches. But for the most part, it's winding down. And now these coaches are settling in and starting to see that the start of the ride is always a little rough. Brian Kelly in particular has had a pretty rough go of it since he signed with LSU. Now, I'm not a big Brian Kelly fan, but the way this has happened all of a sudden, I mean, it's just like, if it was just one or two players at a time, it'd be different. But they've had 4 players transfer or enter the transfer portal. And the biggest one today was Max Johnson, who is the starting quarterback for LSU. Serviceable quarterback, not the greatest quarterback in the world, but a pretty decent quarterback. Passed for like 2,800 yards. He's in the transfer portal. And he's taking his brother with him, who is the #1 tight end prospect in America. You know, these two guys are the sons of the famous quarterback Brad Johnson of the NFL, who won a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So they're not chopped liver. And then you have a couple of their wide receivers that were supposed to be coming in. A couple of 4- and 5-star receivers are transferring out. One of them, his name was Dakotas. I can't remember his last name. But like I said, that's 4 players of high caliber that are transferring out or decommitting all within the same week. Which means they're not buying whatever Brian Kelly is selling. But, like I said, I'm not a Brian Kelly fan, so I'm not here to take up for him. But this Brian Kelly situation can be compared to 2 different situations on 2 different sides of the coin. The first coin being the positive side. Nick Saban came into Alabama in a mess. Mike Shula had let the players run wild and basically let them run over him. Nick Saban comes in, has a decent start to the season, but it starts falling apart when, Nick Saban starts basically trying to institute his philosophies and the way he thinks things should be done. And all these players just weren't used to that. And they end up losing to Louisiana Monroe and going 6-6, went to the bowl game, and we ended up 7-6. But nevertheless, that's not considered a pretty good record for Alabama, a record that would make you think that Nick Saban was going to one day be the best coach in college football history. So back then, Nick Saban luckily didn't have to worry about all this transfer portal crap. Back then, if you transferred, you had to sit out a year. So players were very not in tune to doing that because they'd give up a year of eligibility. Well, that's changed now. Now these players can immediately leave without having to try to stay and buckle down and grow some backbone and try to work things out, which is what they've done. They basically just left and decided they don't want to work things out. Well, I can see both sides of that too. They didn't ask for you to fire their head coach either. So there's just 2 sides to that coin. But what I'm saying here is, LSU fans, if you see this, you see these players transferring out and quitting, just realize that a lot of great coaches have went through this. They've had to come in and basically weed out the bad stuff and maybe have one subpar year before they can start instilling their program and the way they want their players to have certain attitudes about work ethic and whatnot. So I think you need to calm your feathers a little bit and maybe just realize that sometimes to make a situation better, you have to break it. And then just after you break it, you have to fix it and fix it the way you want it. Now, on the other bad side of that, the flip side of that, you have a legendary coach by the name of Howard Schnellenberger who come to Oklahoma for just one season. Howard was like I said, a legend. He brought Miami to prominence back in the early 80s, won them a national championship, and then went on to the USFL and basically left a kingdom to Jimmy Johnson and Dennis Erickson after that. The guy was a great coach, legendary coach, great coach, had a great record, great track record, but for some reason, whatever it was, it did not equate at Oklahoma. Those players never bought in. And then he thought, well, we'll just have a throwaway year. He'll weed out the bad stuff, and then, maybe he will end up being the great coach that he was at Miami. But that never happened. He did weed out some of the players he didn't like, but the thing is, he weeded out way too many and stepped on the toes of a lot of alumnus and upper people in the administrative level. And they ended up dismissing Howard Schnellenberger, I can't even say his name anymore, Howard Schnellenberger, after the first year. Just 1 year, and Howard was gone. So what is Brian Kelly? Where does he fall in that? Is he going to be the coach that comes in, weeds people out, and gets his program to a state where they start winning regularly and contending for championships? Or will he be like Howard Schnellenberger and come in and step on too many toes and take it too far, or never quite get the support that he needs to have a winning program? You guys and gals tell me what you think. Do you think that this was a good hire for LSU? Now, at this point, I know it's early on, but right now things are looking shaky. And the one question I do also have about Brian Kelly is, yes, he was at Notre Dame, and it's hard to recruit to Notre Dame, especially with the high academic standards that they have. But we all know, we're not naive, that there's ways around that. The thing with Brian Kelly is that, back in the day, the Notre Dame schedule was considered one of the hardest. But nowadays, those same teams are no longer that good, like USC, for example. Not very great. Back in the day, playing USC was considered a great thing. Made Notre Dame's strength of schedule skyrocket. But now, a lot of the teams that Notre Dame play are considered below average or average. So is Brian Kelly propped his record up against subpar competition? That's another question. But irregardless of all that, I have a feeling that there's going to probably be another couple of hires just like this, where you're going to have coaches come in and try to put their stamp on a program, and you're going to have all these spoiled players jumping into the transfer portals. Because, like I said, back in Nick Saban's day, and even further back in Bear Bryant's day, and Joe Paterno and Bobby Bowden's day, when they first came in and they tried to stamp their program, you didn't have to worry about players just dipping out and being able to immediately go to another team. So Brian Kelly and a lot of these other coaches have a lot harder row to hoe as far as coming in and basically putting your foot up somebody's ass and getting away with it. And that's all I got to say about that. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. And as always, KMCA to all the other teams.